I'm Malcolm Nance, and welcome to Black Men Spy. Happy Independence Day, 250th anniversary of the United States Day, but it is day 129 of the U.S.-Iran conflict/war. I am Malcolm Nance. I am your host, U.S. intelligence professional and Ukrainian Army legionnaire and believer in the true freedom, liberty, and democracy, son of Philadelphia. We will talk quite a bit about that. But let me introduce our co-host for today. Jacob Carsbo is not with us. If he pops up, we'll bring him up. But Wajeeh, the gay lion from Minneapolis, Minnesota, who is coming here as a Saudi geopolitical analyst, Gulf states, and Arab expert who will give us all that insight. So I am the only spook here today. We do have a civilian with us, which is nice, wearing his Nehru hat, which is amazing. And while we let people spool up their Waja, what mug are you rocking there? Is that your fat blue boy? That's what I call it. Your flat
Yeah,
blue boy mug.
I like the blue boy actually.
All right. I like it too. All right. I have a different one today because um, as you guys know, I am a old Navy chief of refined dignity and taste. And I am having my coffee on an official U.S. Navy China set that was issued out to chiefs mess and wardrooms from the U.S. Navy from the late 1860s until the 1970s. And then in the 70s, they changed to some groovy Navy 70s logo that's so trash, no one collects them. But these are actually very collectible. And the significance of this is because I keep sets around my house. I have a set in my office. I have a set down in my man caves, man skiff/goat locker. A goat locker is where all Navy chiefs collect. And since I'm down there, my dad was a master chief. My brother was a senior chief. I come from a family of chiefs. That's the goat locker. That's where I hang out. Just advised the goat locker, my man skiff/goat locker has one chair. So it is not for other people to come hang out with me. I got to actually bring a chair inside it. But I do have a set of this down there, this Navy China. And I have a set we have a memorial table in my dining room for my late wife and my other relatives where all of their flags are arrayed over the table. And that's a tradition that you keep a table set for them with salt and lemons on it, right? And that is done up with Navy China as well. And let me tell you, there's some rare ass pieces. There's people out there that really collect this. But for today, it's for doing chief stuff, which is drinking double espresso. Excuse me. Mm.
I
Look
have
at
to say,
Waja. Happy 4th of July. Let me start off with that. You can't start without saying happy 4th of American July of America's 250th anniversary. I, for one, am not celebrating because I don't think it's worth celebrating this year. What do you say?
when I first came to the United States, 2005, I didn't learn about the U.S. actual birthday until maybe 2006 or 2007. But when I learned about it, I was thinking I can't wait until I pass by the 250th birthday,
Mhm.
just so because the number is kind of like special number. So as a child, I was looking forward to the number 250th birthday. And
Mhm.
even though I wasn't a US citizen, even though I was a visitor, but like that stood out to me. But now that we're here, um, I have complicated feeling. I feel like,
You know what? You know what it reminds me of? Way back in the 70s and the 80s, um, 42nd Street in New York City, Times Square, was a nasty, seedy, dirty place of stinky strip clubs, bars, seedy restaurants from the what is the bus station, the Port Authority, all the way up to 47th Street. It was just strip clubs. And in the middle of that, you had Broadway musicals. Just nasty. Now, if you go to it, it's awesome. It's beautiful. Everything's clean, bars, restaurants. It's bright. They put in all the neon. America is now in the 42nd Street from the 1970s phase. If you watch that movie, It's a Wonderful Life, at Christmas time about the guy who was considering doing suicide, and they show what would happen to his little town of Bedford Falls if he wasn't there, and he realizes the town is beautiful. And one of the consequences of him not existing is that old man Potter, right, the rich millionaire, would buy up the town. And when George comes back to that town, the town is not named Bedford Falls. It's renamed Potterville. And it is bars, strip clubs, seedy night dancing, right? And, martini bars and everything. And his friends, who were all heroes in World War II, are just jerks and assholes, right? And the angel Clarence is trying to explain to him, but George, this is what happens when you weren't here. You weren't here to stop this, right? This is where America is right now. We're in Pottersville.
Eh,
We are not in Bedford's Fall. It is not, you're not going to come home to a wife and wonderful kids on Christmas Eve and people sending you money because the man stole your stuff, right? We're in MAGA land, as somebody said, maggot land, Mark. Thank you. We're in Pottersville, and I am a child of Philadelphia. And for those of you who haven't seen my episode of Six Questions with Steve Beschloss, go over to YouTube and go watch that, because I give some really deep, heartfelt feelings about what I feel as a Philadelphian. I'm a native Philadelphian, and the American experiment from the moment I was born. I was born to a father who was a senior chief petty officer at a training school, a boiler technician who earned his Chief's Cup and his anchors in the hottest, dirtiest, nasty parts of the ship, where if the ship was hit or something happened to it, survival was minimal, almost zero for many ships. And he was 15 when he lied and joined the Navy in World War II and saw the hole. That's what they called the boiler room, right? The hole. And as you see, like the Titanic, no one gets out of that place, right? He spent his entire life there, and I was born into that at Philadelphia Naval Hospital. So from the very moment I was born, prenatal, I was a child of Philadelphia and a child of a long Navy tradition that was over 100 years old long, no long military tradition that was 100 years old long. I was taught in first grade, kindergarten, that you love Philadelphia, you love the American experiment, you love what America's democracy is and what it's become. Whew. Well, I really love it.
You know,
So we're going to talk a
one,
little later about that. Wajeeh, please. What's your thoughts?
you know, uh, one thing I want to say is that on many different levels, the United States was on the top 10. When it came to education, the United States was on the top 10. When it
Mhm.
came to economy, the United States was always in the top 10. When it came to freedom of speech, the United States was always in the top 10. Um, these numbers are no longer on the top 10. Some of them are no longer in the top 10. Education, we're not in the top 10. Infrastructure, we're not in the top 10. Freedom of speech, we're not in the top 10. Reality is we have actual problems and actual issues. And for, for I feel like so many people are betrayed, whether it's ambassadors, whether it's military, whether it's government officials, whether it's the citizens. And the reason I say that is because I remember as a child, as a child of well-connected family in Saudi Arabia, I met with U.S. diplomats over and over and over again. And all of them were selling the freedom of speech, were selling this democracy, especially when they meet with people in Saudi Arabia, and especially when they meet with kids. They really draw this picture of of heaven, and
Mhm.
you believe it. And once you come and and you believe in the shit that they just told you, and you see what's happening, you really feel betrayed.
Betrayed. I know exactly what you mean. NAFO fellow Woof has put it perfectly. I'm going to read what he wrote in the chat. I was once willing to give my life for this country. Now I give my life to save my family from what we became.
Yeah, it's sad.
Ouch. I don't know. I might need to make a t-shirt out of that, NAFO fellow Woof. I might need your permission to make a t-shirt. I love that. And I feel you. I feel that from the bottom of my heart. Um, like I said, I this year I read part of the Declaration of Independence, um, you know, for national security leaders for America, and I still have it on my phone. I have several reading parts that are on my phone, right? And they asked me to read the first paragraph, and what I'm going to do is I'd like for us to have end the show with this discussion. Now that we've got it started up, let's go ahead with the news because there is some news, but I want to focus on what is the meaning of America? What is the meaning of democracy? What are we doing? Why are we as a collective here right now? Here on Black Man Spy, we're family, right? We get about 1,600 watchers today per day. We're having a hard time struggling to get 1,000 now because it is a holiday. But we really should think about ourselves, our family, and what we as true patriots are going to do. But if let's go ahead with the news. Oil is still in the tanks, right? Still down in the 60s, high 60s.
68 for the WTI, Brent crude 72, Marban 66, OPEC 77.
Yeah. By the way, if you see me looking down, it means because I'm reading your comments in the live chat. I'm not paying attention to you. I look at the camera, I'm really paying attention to you, but now reading in the live chat. Well, good. Well, let's get through the basic fundamental news of the day, and we can get to this discussion. Strait of Hormuz. The Iranians have managed to actually close the Omani side of the Strait of Hormuz. I don't know how they've done it. There were no transits in either direction using the Omani traffic separation scheme or the central traffic separation scheme. All vessels yesterday moved using the Iranian traffic separation scheme. So whatever intimidation they're doing, it's working.
I
Right.
read something yesterday that said
Mhm.
that they finally reached an agreement.
Yeah. Money, money, money. Opposite.
So
So,
the Omanis and the Iranians apparently reached an agreement. So I could see maybe how that has happened.
yeah. Well, it's happening. It's happening. That being said, as you all know, the funeral of the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is taking place right now. It goes over 3 days, fourth, fifth, and sixth. The big celebration happened yesterday, or I wouldn't call it a celebration, but the big event happened yesterday. And many, many nations, over 100 nations attended that funeral. I believe there's 163 countries in this world. Someone look that up. Correct me if I'm wrong. Tell me exactly how many nations there are in the world right now. And this is something that I didn't think that I would hear. Russian Prime Minister or bag man for Vladimir Putin, Dmitry Medvedev, said this in an interview with Russia Today. The Strait of Hormuz is a weapon no
195.
weak 195, thank you. The Strait of Hormuz is a weapon no weaker than a nuclear weapon for Iran. And he referred to the ability to close both the Strait of Hormuz and the Bab el Mandab as a thermonuclear weapon for the global economy. All right. Just absolutely amazing. But the Russians understand now choke points. And as you know, I had, the author of the book Choke Points, which is about financial, economic, political, and geographic choke points which control the world. Iran is now executing one. Iran made an interesting comment yesterday. They said they had information that Marco Rubio, U.S. Secretary of State, sent a global message out to all nations that said, don't go to the Iranian funeral of Ayatollah Khamenei, or it will, not joking, or it will be considered an act unfriendly to the United States, and that your attendance would have negative consequences with your trade and economic and political relations with the United States. Um, he said this specifically. Now, this is not just coming from the Iranians, this is now coming from the State Department. Apparently, African nations got the biggest threats. And the biggest threat that he made to them was the United States will cut off all aid, development aid, economic aid, trade aid, and interest with any African country that attends this funeral.
The
Well,
United States really likes to bully African countries because they
he hates
always give
black
them aid.
people. I mean, he hates black people. He has closed 17 embassies and consulates in Africa, and he wants no ambassadors. Two-thirds of the embassies there don't have an ambassador. He does not care about them. The problem is he's so stupid as a businessman. He's giving a continent with over 1 billion people to China as principal
Uh-huh.
trading partners with all the natural resources of Africa, giving it to China. He's so racist. He just doesn't understand. He's destroying American economic opportunity. Ugh, what can I say? Oh, Gewalt, right? As you know, as I say, I was raised. I'm obviously that comes from my Mossad training, where I learned Yiddish at age 15. Actually, I learned Yiddish at age 10. Okay, that being said,
I I have to
13.
leave by 8:45 my time because I
Sure.
have a protest to go to.
Awesome. Because I personally think that we all should take a short break because it's a holiday. So I'm on my last point for today because believe it or not, it has actually been a slow day and I really didn't hunt for things. Because the 4th of July, we need to talk about things that are important. In the end, 13 nations declined the invitation, 5 African, 2 Gulf states. And I believe the 2 Gulf states were Bahrain and Kuwait, who personally got their asses handed to them by the Iranians. So they're a little upset with that. So now, believe it or not, that is all the news that I have for today. I wanted to just have this. Let's say we have 30 minutes to talk before we go to questions. While Wajeeh is talking here over the next couple of minutes, Wajeeh, you came here. Did you come in refugee status, or what? How did you get here?
No, my parents came here on a royal scholarship from King Abdullah
Uh,
in 2005, where in 2001, after 9/11, my condolences to all the Americans that have died in that tragedy. And I hope
mhm.
that all of them gets their compensation from the Saudi government at one point or another. But the reality is that after 2001, George Bush came out and stopped the all the students that were coming to the United States. When King Abdullah became the king, he visited George Bush and he explained to him, listen, if you really want to defeat this extremist ideology that we have in Saudi Arabia and soften the people's mind, you really got to let us send our people over so they can get educated and westernized. So we can help fight back this extremist ideology. And this is, again,
Right.
I tell you, there's better ways to fight extremism than guns. And a lot of people don't understand me. I grew up where my parents wanted me to become a mujahid. And if it wasn't for me to come to the United
Oh,
States, if it wasn't for my parents on that scholarship to come to the United States, where I faced Westerners and rubbed shoulders with them, I would have not become this moderate guy fighting extremist ideologies in Islam. So,
mhm,
like, I've gone through that journey, and if
mhm.
King Abdullah gave them the royal scholarship, I graduated with honors, so I got the privilege of getting on that royal scholarship as well. And after I graduated, I was under threat of being kidnapped back to Saudi Arabia because Saudi government does that. Had to enter a safe house and apply for asylum.
Yeah. You know, funny thing is, my one of my first the book that I actually think that is my best work after Plot to Destroy Democracy, which by the way, I have my mind was flowing. Everything that I wrote in Plot to Destroy Democracy has happened. Everything. It was the best predictive analysis I've ever done. But I wrote a book called An End to Al Qaeda back in 2005 or somewhere about there. And what it was a plan to attack Al Qaeda on the basis of ideology, which was to argue by using, you know, Arab scholars to do what the Saudis eventually did in their de radicalization program, which was to attack their faith. And I was told by experts, I'm like, whoa, 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 you can't attack their faith. If they believe it, they believe it. If they say they're a Muslim, they're a Muslim. And I said, no, no, no. We don't want to say that you're not a Muslim. We want to say that you have been misguided and you're now working for Shaitan. You're working for the devil, right? And that now you're Shaitania, as far as we're concerned. To get them to introduce that as, I call it, the weapon of doubt. And I said, look, Americans can't do this. And there was a time in the George Bush administration where they would not talk to these jihadis. They were saying, well, remember they had that let's pretend like bin Laden is not consequential and doesn't exist thing? That came from a Christian Iranian who was an advisor to George W. Bush. And I was like, what? No, it doesn't work. So for like a year, they tried to pretend like Osama bin Laden didn't exist while suicide bombings were going everywhere. And I kept saying, go after their faith. Get the Saudis to come out and say, they're Muslims, but they're so misguided they work for Satan, Shaitan, right? Officially. And the Saudis didn't do that for about 4 years. Then they did during the big Saudi internal civil war. The reason Waj and I are talking about this is that the things that those guys were saying about America at that time weren't really real. But they have definitely become, this is my opinion, Waj, not yours, but it has become real. And this is how last year or 2 years ago, when the Chinese and the Iranians allowed TikTok to put up that post called Osama bin Laden's letter to America about Gaza and Palestine. And it exploded. And all these TikTok influencers out there were like, you kept this letter from us. America sucks. I was like, you're using Osama bin Laden to justify how bad America is? He burned 3,000 people alive, 280 in front of my very eyes, right? Disqualifying. It's like saying, well, Adolf Hitler had some good ideas about pasta. No, disqualifying. Jeffrey Dahmer, you cannot consult him for cuisine. Right?
Oh my
There
gosh.
are certain people that are disqualified from discourse. Donald Trump, when talking about the goodness and the meaning of America, disqualified. Osama bin Laden about foreign policy and relations, disqualified. Ah, good God, we have become a stupid nation. And the reason that I am unhappy today, I am not happy with today. I already started, I got up at 5 a.m., just went out and started doing work around the house, put out the trap for this gopher that's been ripping up my, ripping up my gear room that's out in my barn, and doing it, trimming the hedges and weed whacking a acre and a half. That's what I did this morning, right? On 4th of July. But here's what I'm not doing. I ain't going to any fireworks. I'm not celebrating the 250th anniversary of the United States. I don't think we're worthy of it. And to be quite
Malcolm,
honest, I won't celebrate it. There is a day, by the way, watch, hold on for that thought. There is a day where I will celebrate like it's Philadelphia Freedom Time, right? Like it's the 250th anniversary should have been celebrated. The way when I was 15 years old in Philadelphia in 1976, where we had the bicentennial. I was in Philadelphia. It was the biggest, rockingest, never ending party. Elton John came to Philadelphia to debut his song, Philadelphia Freedom. I remember the bicentennial, one of the happiest events of my life. This time, I feel like I live in fucking Pottertown, and I'm waiting for two events to happen. Y'all know what that day is, the day that I told you before. If you see me, if I do an emergency live stream and I'm out in front of my house and I have a table with two magnum bottles of Veuve Clicquot champagne, and I am serving champagne to anyone that comes up in little paper cups, y'all will know what that day is. Okay? The other day will be the day that a new president is inaugurated who believes in what America's all about. What do you think, Raj? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
Hey, no, no, you didn't cut me. I was cutting you off. I was going to ask you if you had the
Sure,
chance to, if you have read the Bin Laden papers, the book.
bro. I read that shit when it was raw intelligence.
Yeah, so
Okay,
you got your eyes on the real ones.
dude. I had been reading Bin Laden's work since January 1997, when he really popped up on my radar.
Oh
I was teaching
wow.
at the survival school in Coronado, and I was developing a program called Advanced, that at that time was called Advanced Seer. And I turned it into a program called ATOS, Advanced Terrorism, Abduction, and Hostage Survival. And it was a it was a special access program for special operations soldiers, sailors, Marines, whatever, and intelligence people that were going to what we called elbows length to members of Al Qaeda. And if they got captured, well, we had to teach you that the probability of you getting out is about zero. But there are things you can do to make it fun and interesting. But when Osama bin Laden launched his, not his letter, his declaration of war
Uh-huh.
on America, January 2000, I'm sorry, 1997. We had our SIPRNet back then.
After the invasion of Kuwait.
No, no, no. This is 1997. You're thinking of
Oh,
2000, 1991. He made a whole series of statements. And before that, there was this nebulous organization we called the JGO, right? Global Jihad Organization. But we didn't think it was all interactive. Omar Abdul Rahman, the Chechens, all these people. The reason I'm coming to this story, why it impacts the 4th of July. Um, but when Bin Laden made his January 97 declaration, I was like, oh shit, this thing has congealed. It's a thing now. And we started getting classified reports called, AJO, right? Al Qaeda Al Jihad Organization, the headquarters of the Jihad Organization,
mhm.
right? And which the FBI started referring to as Al Qaeda, right? AQ. And I knew shit was bad. And fast forward to 6 months later, we're developing this program. First day of that course, the Advanced Terror Abduction and Hostage Survival course at Coronado SEER. The morning everybody was arriving, the American embassy in Kenya and Tanzania had been suicide bombing. And I was like, welcome aboard. Most of you will be leaving here in a matter of days. And we had some tier one guys, we had some, other people. And yeah, half of them had to leave. We had to accelerate the first class. And the first thing we did was, went through the program, then kidnapped them. and boom, off they went, off into that world. But we knew that there was a threat. We knew, there's the cat. There's the cat. What's that damn cat's name?
Oh, well, you told me you hated that name. I
What's
told
his
you his
name?
name.
What's his name?
Malcolm.
No, it's not. You lie like a rug. I'm going to tell you something, but let me finish this thought. So these are real threats to America, and I understood that we had to fight these things. But did I like Zero Dark 30, Annabelle Lee? No, no one in the U.S. intelligence community likes the movie Zero Dark 30. No one. Not that movie sucks. But But it does show how we got the guy, generally how we got the guy. But long story very short, where we were then as to where we are now. George W. Bush did a phenomenal job being president because he remained president in presidential. Now we are just sucking. We suck. And everything sucks and it feels bad. What I don't find amazing is the white people that said that Barack Obama was a bad person, was a
Oh,
bad
he was so bad.
president.
It was
This guy
horrible.
was such
He wore a
this
tan suit.
oh my God, not a tan suit. But if there's any one thing that I recall that make, being a president, and being in America, you should feel proud of that. I couldn't serve this government. I was asked. I had one of these Trump sycophants, come on, we'll put you on the National Security Council and blah, blah, blah. I had this guy who we were in the blue room for MSNBC. And he asked me, he said, would you like to come on board? Would you like to meet Trump? And here's what my direct response was. You can go fuck yourself. I said, I will never compromise my honor to talk to that dog. And that guy was like, well, I think you're misjudging him. I was like, I ain't misjudging shit. See my hand? I didn't even know I was doing that. Went straight to the blade hand because I have zero tolerance for liars, cheats, frauds, and assholes. Trump is the guy we look out for to kill or hurt people because he enjoys it. I use this analogy. He's the new officer on the ship who the first time he gets to steer the ship, he says, let's drive it into the rocks and see what happens because it'll be cool. That's where we are. I feel like I'm the chief on the deck who has to keep my fucking eye on him every minute on there, right? So that being said, I miss a Barack Obama because one, and Joe Biden will turn out to be one of the best presidents in American history. Here's why. Because he was a good person. He was a good man with a good heart. Barack Obama, his biggest flaw was that he was a good man, right? He didn't have 5 children by 3 baby mamas, all of whom were mistresses, right? He didn't go around banging hookers. He didn't go around stealing money from people and cheating little old ladies out of their retirement, which Donald Trump has done. He didn't get banned from doing charities because every charity he started was actually a fraud organization, right? I'm just saying, Barack Obama was a good man. And I remember that when they had his inauguration in Chicago, his victory is a victory speech when him and Joe Biden came out in Chicago and they played the song Remember the Titans. And they came together and I thought, this is a sea change in American history. And Trump has spent every moment to dismantle that. And this is why I feel like I'm in pain. Somebody earlier said they felt grief. I felt grief the day Trump was elected the first time. The second time, I felt fear and terror. And when I wrote my book, They Want to Kill Americans, all that came true. He pardoned all the January 6ers, QAnon. He became the philosophy of MAGA. And if they could kill people, they would. And if things go bad for them this November, there are going to be people out there who will say it. And I'll say it. Somebody said, well, it's really overwhelmingly white people. Yes, it is. And this is the last gasp of the Confederacy. Some people say that. But you know what? It's like that guy who came on here the other day, right? Somebody said I shouldn't give them time, people who go after me, my credibility and all that stuff. No, you have to understand something. They are jealous of Americans who are good. They are jealous of Americans who are participating, right? The reason I like having you on Watch is because you are a series of incredible contradictions. But the body of knowledge you bring to this clarifies everything I've learned in 40 years. And I can double check myself against you, and I feel at home. But same thing with Jacob, right? When we start that spooky talk, we can hear each other in each other's heads. But these people are so hateful and mean spirited. MAGA is a hateful, mean spirited, nasty organization. And the thing that they go, no, we're not. We're patriots. Not a one of them is an American patriot. And I have a very hard time referring to them as Americans because the only time they're going to figure out there is an American, they are Americans, is when America gets hurt again. And I'm going to point the blame right at them. And it's going to be Donald Trump's fault. It's going to be that they want to dominate America. They want to rule Americans. They don't want to be Americans. And that's what I said on the 5 questions the other day, or 6 questions with Steve Beschloss the other day. If you can go watch it on YouTube, please go there, leave a comment, give it a like, right? But all I'm saying is this. I said that the next president needs to be FDJFK, Franklin Delano John F. Kennedy, right? He had better be as expansive in what he wants to do with government as Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And he needs to be inspire as much hope as John F. Kennedy. But he needs to be as good-hearted and as
Yes.
kind and respectful as Barack Obama and Joe Biden. I would have done anything for Joe Biden or Barack Obama. Those guys, I tell you, when you meet a good guy. Full disclosure, I have met a person who is really saintly in this world, and I'll pass it on to you because I know you have to go soon. There's a joke. I used to be a consultant for Warner Brothers, and I met some nice people. And the person who wrote the foreword to my book, The Plot to Betray America, is a guy we referred to as Saint Martin of Malibu. And he is just the kindest, nicest man. He is Obama-like in every respect. He is as kind as Joe Biden, and he is as saintly as the Pope. And that's Martin Sheen. Of all people, he is so nice. I love Martin Sheen and his wife, Janet. And his son, Charlie, is very nice despite his challenges. And Emilio Estevez, just one of the nicest people I've ever met, one of the nicest families I've ever met. But Charlie Sheen, Martin Sheen, Saint Martin of Malibu, he really needs to be canonized. He's just a beautiful person, and his Christianity is real and solid. And I told him, we were sitting at the dining room. He had me over for dinner one day, and he said to me, Malcolm, I try to live the life of Jesus every day. And I said, I'm looking at a man who was, to me, when I look at him, I only see Captain Willard from Apocalypse Now, right? But I realized that this was a good person and that this is the kind of person I wanted to emulate. He's like 30 years older than me, right? But I'm like, good God, this man is such a nice. And I
If
would
he said,
strive
I
hard to
live
be like
the
him.
life of Jesus every day, I would say he's a narcissist. But because he said, I try to live the life of Jesus, as someone that was very religious, that's his
Mm,
some piety because
yes,
you always try to be better. You don't
yes,
expect that you are the best when you
yeah,
are someone that way.
no.
So,
He is just,
absolutely.
but I'll tell you, so when I'm looking at these characters,
I don't know who you're talking
Barack,
about, by the way. I'm just
Martin Sheen, the actor, you
no.
not know him.
I grew up in a cult. I don't know anything about. I learned about Lady Gaga after I applied for asylum and shit.
Boy, get your ass over to the TV show West Wing.
Okay.
That's the president you want, right? Josiah Bartlett, smart, educated, big-hearted, right? Teaches you things every time you impact him. That guy is he's the commensurate president. Get your ass and binge watch The West Wing today. All right?
All right. You
It
got it.
is
I'll
great.
put it down.
Good God, somebody slap this man. Ya salam.
Yeah. Let me.
Hamar. Ya
I,
Hamar. Ya.
yeah, ma. Yeah, ma.
I called him a donkey. Wajeeh, I know you have to go, and I know we've gone long. Can you give me
I
your
just have
last thoughts
yes.
on your
Thank
love,
you.
or on what you love about America?
Well, first of all, I'm gonna give you a tip. You see the heart button down there? There's
Yes, the
three.
heart button.
There's yes, next to it, to your left, there's a line with three lines, like a
Uh,
triangle.
yeah,
If
yeah.
you click on that, you can choose whether you see comments or only questions. That's for
Oh,
you
I
as
see
a
that.
tip.
There's if you're on
That's a
the
new
laptop, it's
feature.
on the top of the live chat. You can put questions or
It's a
comments.
it, it's a new feature, so that's for you. Um,
Wow.
the
Some
the
oh,
it's, and for the
it's a good
listeners,
cover.
if you have, yeah, if you are a listener, if you haven't read the Bin Laden paper, there's a book out there called the Bin Laden paper. It really gives you a nice from within Bin Laden's eyesight into the Al Qaeda. Really go out there and try it. It's been translated. They did an amazing job analyzing the detail. It's not an expensive book either. I was gonna ask you if you ran into Jamal Khashoggi, but I'll wait for you to give me that answer
No,
after I'm done.
I've never run into him.
Okay. Um, I wanted to say that uh, regarding the funeral, I'm gonna write a paper for you guys to understand the difference between Shia and Sunni funerals and all of the things that happened. There's a lot that happened I wanted to talk about. I don't have time for, but the last two things I want to say is that we need a democratic person that's running for office who's a populist,
Mhm,
opinionated, connected to the people. Sole focus is the economy and bringing the people back. And that is thing that the Democrats have been missing for a very long time. They
mhm,
don't have someone connected to the people. They don't have someone who is a populist. They don't have someone who's opinionated. They don't have someone who actually represents the people anymore in the office of. We had Obama, we had, but like many people want someone who's from them, from the general public, and that is a working class, who's a blue collar, who gets the fact that I cannot pay my bill next month because I have to pay my medical bills for my mom or for my daughter or for my wife. That is the reality of the American lifestyle right now, whether you're on the right or the left. And if we don't have someone actually focusing on the hard issues that is facing every American, we're not going to
mhm.
get there. And the way I'm going to celebrate this 250th birthday is by exercising my First Amendment of freedom of speech and protest and going to
Yay,
say that the people being killed, um, Renee Good, Alex, and
Freddie.
anyone who's on Alex Freddie and anyone who's under ICE custody shouldn't be have gone killed. I don't know if you know this, but the policy for ICE has changed. So it used to be after you are released, if you died within 30 days, you'd be counted under the people that have been killed. Now the policies has changed. If you die within 30 days of being released, you are not counted toward the ICE detention center
Mhm.
um, number of killed. So there's a lot of things being changed. People are not being treated with the rights of the Constitution, and we're going to do something about that. Thanks for
Right.
having me.
All right. Well, you go on about your business. I'm going to read some of the Declaration of Independence for some people here. Somebody actually said Martin Sheen was Martin Sheen a conservative? No, he's a flaming, flaming liberal. You know, him and the Pope. I think him and the Pope are buds. So everything is awesome out there. But thank you, Waja. I appreciate your kind words, and I hope you